So the first thing I want to talk about this week, and this is pretty cool. There's a group from University of Chicago that is basically a nonprofit under Stephen Levitt, have you guys ever heard of Freakonomics? It was a book from like a decade ago that talked about like these weird economic things. But so he was one of the co-authors of it, and now he's kind of like this like celebrity economist, and he's working on a nonprofit that wants to help support open science, micropublications, and new ways to assess like the value of research outputs. So they reached out to us and were like, "Hey, we want to work with you guys somehow." I did an introductory call with them, and it was pretty funny. They basically like were describing exactly what we were building, and they want to see like micropublications. They want to see a Jupyter notebook that can run code, and then they want to see like a new and improved H-index. That's like more or less what we're working on. And they offered their assistance in Stephen Levitt's connections. He's like we could drift into the economics type of academic world, I think, pretty easily, get some users who are like having cool discussions about that kind of thing. And then they also wanted to help out like providing grants for different kinds of content production. And so this is like, I think a lot of ideas put together in one here. But one thing that makes me the most excited about the future of ResearchHub, and like explains to me why anybody would show up and spend their time like sharing papers and commenting on papers, is like financial stability. Like if I spend a lot of time on ResearchHub and I create a lot of good content, like I would want that to help make my career in academia more viable. And so I think these guys have some research funding that they're trying to distribute, and I think they want to help support us with that funding. So I want to toss it out to you guys to think about like, in a perfect world, like I don't know what size grants these would be. Like maybe it's just 5K, maybe it's like 20K split up, in 1K grants or something. I'm not sure. It could be more. I have no idea. But I have another call with them later this week, and I wanted to kind of like propose something to show that we had been doing work on our side. And I'll throw my idea out there, and then I'd love to hear what you all think. But to me, micro publications are really exciting. And if we could somehow like create a contest or grant program for early career researchers to share like either like in progress results or negative results, like stuff that's like total trash and would just like end up never seeing the light of day. Like if we could run a contest for that and the most popular negative result or something gets like $5,000, to me that would be kind of cool and align with their mission. So yeah, do you all have any other ideas? And then like if we did do something with micro publications, curious what you think like the dollar amount would need to be in order to get people excited.
You mean for each submission or for the select few winners of the grant or whatever?
I think we have the design space is massive. We could do whatever we wanted. Like say, imagine like there's just a 5K pot. We can divvy it up however we want, and that pot could be larger. I'm not sure, but just thinking creatively of like how can we turn that grant into the most weekly active contributors that would help to like grow the ResearchHub community.
So the one thing that you can take into equation is that if you yourself select who gets the grant money, then you're limiting the potential that could be spent in user activity discussing who gets the grant, right? So if you somehow involve the community into the debates and everything, that organically creates user presence and user activity, right? Just because they want to have a say in who gets the money. That being said, I think you, especially during the early stages, I don't think you can afford to just give a monetary reward to every single submission, just because you need some filtering mechanism, because some of them are not going to be great. So I think the best way would be, I don't know, top 10 of the week. People vote on top 10 submissions of the week or something like that. just to introduce some barrier,
So this is, you brought up a super important point. We should have the DAO have a vote. Like the DAO via Snapshot, which is this tool, we could have a DAO vote on maybe like a couple of proposals, or like the top, everybody's favorite micro publication from the last 3 weeks or something. But we could definitely use the DAO to like make the decision on who receives like whatever funding we try and distribute.
Is there anything like, I'm thinking, is there any requirements for a micro publication? Like if I were to publish a micro publication, do I need to throw some kind of supplementary information with it? Or is it kind of like we give them the template and they put whatever they want and submit it?
Nami, do you have any thoughts there? Like what's the minimum viable micro publication?
That's hard. I mean, so it can be anything, and it can also, there's no standard or anything like that. So if you pitch that to researchers, researchers will be super confused, as I was. Like, I don't know what I can share. And that there's no training about it. I mean, I can see a future where researchers can be educated to share certain things, like have those research questions and whatnot. But currently, I don't see, it's super confusing to the researchers.
Yeah, it could be. So there are two paths here, right? The modular way, micropublication way, and you pick one aspect of the paper or one segment of the paper and publish it without anything else, right? So just the data, or just the hypothesis, or just the intro, which I guess makes it a review. So that part will be easier for researchers, right? Because that's something they already have. They can just take it from, their... Everybody has some, pieces of written material that they haven't published yet. However, it's not going to be usable, well, mostly not going to be usable by regular users, right? Like if I give you just my data, right, that I collected, and like 2 sentences, what this data, what are you going to do about it? Nothing, right? Absolutely useless to you. So maybe the other alternative that would be a little bit harder for researchers, but absolutely much more usable by regular users, would be just to reduce the size, make it micro, not in terms of that it's just one segment of the paper, but make it an entire paper, but just tone down the requirements and length to like a couple sentences. A couple sentences of intro, a couple sentences of method, a couple sentences of results. It has its own problems, but at least people can read it and understand what it means.
I wonder if, like, and I don't know if we consider like conference papers published, like I wonder if like we make those the micro publications, like, right, like, because there's already a bunch of work put in to make that thing like look good and like flow well. So yeah, just curious what you guys think about that.
That's a good point. Like we already have a language to communicate what it means. Conference paper, you know what it means. Conference poster, you know what it means for researchers. Right now, if you say molecular publication, I don't know what that means, but that's a good direction. Maybe once we figure it out, maybe next step would be digesting that into smaller pieces.
Right.
I think we could market that through conferences too. Like I bet it seems like there's a path to actually make people aware of it and to get some submissions. I know Mohit is really into conference proceedings, so even I could see him like helping to champion it within his field to try and get some people to submit some stuff.
Yeah. I could see, how there's these kind of like, I don't know if this is how we want to run it, but there's these kind of like for, I guess, social media influencers, like competitions, maybe not just social media, but like I see this from time to time of like, hey, go like my thing, like, hey, I put together this thing. I'm trying to win a trip. I'm trying to win something, like go like my entry, and the most likes, like they'll get a chance to win something. I wonder if like that's a paradigm that people like or don't like in academia. Like it might be like it's too, I don't know, like glory hunting, you know, like because I know like a lot of people in academia, they don't want to just, hey, blast out to everybody, go like my thing, you know. But some kind of paradigm, a corollary there, like maybe, yeah, we could start getting users like, hey, I want funding for my thing. Here's my project. Build some kind of like UI around it so people can sort and see all the different projects available, and then yeah, the winners get funding. So
is this in reference to DAO voting, or what is the context?
no, it's more so of like, yeah, maybe there's a DAO vote at the end. Like we have like, I don't know, the top 50 submissions, and now the DAO vote's on that. But like, if let's say we get like, I don't know, 1,000 submissions, it's like, how do we distinguish which ones are good and which ones bad? Maybe it's like something we can do if you put a page up on ResearchHub where like the community can now vote on things, and like people can vote on, so not just the DAO, but like everybody can vote on something. And then like ideally the top stuff rises to the top. Yeah.
There's something pretty cool here where even conference proceedings, like we could give people research coin, like just as a bonus when they submit it, and tell them to use that research coin to vote in the DAO vote for which one's their favorite conference proceeding. So then we could, if we got 1,000 people submitting conference proceedings, that's 1,000 more voters in the DAO who would have, you know, a little slice of like representation to see where the money goes. That could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so that I think is a great base to be able to collaborate with their team on to see what they want to do. But does anybody have any thoughts before we move on? Doing good? Cool. So the next thing, and this is something we've chatted about a little bit, and I'm super excited about, but Open Science Framework wants to integrate with ResearchHub. So I'll show you, they sent over like a proposal on how they wanted to do that, and we're getting back to them on what we think like a reasonable V1 or like MVP type of integration is. So their idea for the very first integration is essentially giving tokens to authors for sharing conflicts of interest, public data sets, and if their preprint is tied to a pre-registration, for different preprint submissions to Open Science Framework. So the way this would work is like, if this is a bad example because these all three say no, but if someone submitted a preprint to an Open Science Framework preprint server and the authors self-reported that they included a conflict of interest, a public data set, and it was tied to a pre-registration, there would be independent people who could come in and basically verify, hey, I read through the paper, and yes, there is a conflict of interest statement. So checkmark, the authors told the truth. No, there is no public data set, despite the fact that the authors said there is, so X. And yes, there is a pre-registration that describes the study shared within the preprint, and then checkmark. And the idea here is that authors would earn tokens for sharing these disclosures, and then the independent reviewers would also earn tokens for coming in, reading the paper, and verifying whether these things had actually been shared or not. The long-term vision Open Science Framework wants to get into is essentially trying to have like public peer review of preprints that's incentivized via tokens. And they see this like verification of these three type of like categories as the very first step to doing that through like a 7-step process, which they recommended. But yeah, overall, would love to hear what you all think about that idea. And then I know we've been thinking a little bit about how viable this could be like in the short term. So we'll kind of like chat about that as well. Do you guys kind of understand what they're going for with the verification of these three kind of buckets?
Mm-hmm.
And it's only these three kind of buckets that they want you to review, or is there other stuff as well?
There would be more in the future, but this would be in their minds like the very simple V1 in order to like try and start the behavior of rewarding reviewers with tokens.
How extensive is that feedback or the review would be?
It would be just a check mark or X. Like, was there a conflict of interest statement included in the preprint? Yes or no? So no sentences, no actual like review required. I don't even think you need to be like a psychology PhD to do this. Like, I think I could go in and see like, hey, is there a public data set that actually represents what the methods described in the preprint?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. Hey, so I didn't think too like that there'll be like X person, like Nami Tsunami confirm this or something like that.
Yeah, there could be reputation tied to it where like you could have like a history of all of the like verifications that you've made personally.
But let me get this straight. How would ResearchHub integrate with this? Is it just the tokens, like the RSC, or is there more stuff as well?
I think we'd have to decide the extent of the integration. Likely what would happen is authors would accrue Research Coin on ResearchHub and then have to sign into ResearchHub in order to claim it. So the way that Open Science Framework wins here is that they get to use Research Coin as an incentive to have these behaviors, which are like pretty cool. And then we would win because all of the authors and the verifiers would have to log into ResearchHub, get a ResearchHub profile in order to claim their research coin and then withdraw it to use it however they wanted.
Do you see a future to like redirect users to discuss on ResearchHub? Like, for example, there might be like a text box below the preprint and then discuss about preprint on ResearchHub, something like that.
Yes, definitely. I think that would be probably within the next step after we did something like this. They would include a button here. They have like a plot it button now authors can add. And so we would have like a ResearchHub button under it.
Would they be open to integrating like maybe a widget from you to basically outsource a comment section from you guys? So like imagine beneath the paper there would be like a place for, you know, people talk about this kind of stuff about this paper, and the top 3 comments are visible. To read more, you need to go to ResearchHub. That's
definitely possible. It becomes slightly more complex from a technical perspective, but it's definitely possible. And I think that they see our like form functionality as something that they could take advantage of instead of building themselves. I guess, Kobe, you want to quickly share what you're sort of thinking about the potential minimal viable integration?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we talked to OSF, and I'm not sure, Joyce, did you share with the guys the document, the OSF document? Yeah.
Anton and Nami, but I can share with anybody else here who's interested as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so OSF is mainly interested in basically starting off with the review process. So basically, Joyce, what we talked about, starting with an MVP of a review process and then building on top of it. However, after giving it some thought, I definitely agree that we should do it, and that would be like the most awesome thing that we can possibly do. And also we have Nami and Anton who like have given it considerable thought. So it'll be amazing to work on the review process. However, as a first step, after giving it some thought, I do think that we should probably approach it from the perspective of and let me share my screen. I think it'll make a little bit more sense. I want to like talk a little bit, but show you some stuff. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think, so one of the things we brainstormed internally before we talked to OSF was how can we make this partnership work? Can we do something to kind of like have both sides win, yet not invest like major amounts of like technical resources at the beginning, because we want to see like how we work together. So I'm thinking that a plotted style button, Joyce, like what you alluded to, that would live on every single preprint page. And I'm not sure if that's possible, but like let's assume for a second it is. And the goal is really to do like a proof of concept for us working together, allow scientists to discuss paper via ResearchHub. So whatever, you can ignore my bad design skills, but like something that will allude to the fact that you can discuss this paper in ResearchHub, right? It will give RSC awareness. So in this case, I have like engagement with this paper can earn you and the author's RSC. It will also show like how much RSC the paper has earned so far. So that can be good, right? We can give RSC awareness and support the author, support OSF, and then so every single paper on OSF will have this and additional details, right? So if author is logged in, we can show some kind of a button that alludes to the fact that you can claim your profile and receive some RSC, which is like one of the features we're working on. The technical difficulties that can we have papers like on our side without a DOI? When do we upload the papers to RH? And stuff like that. So there is some technical consideration. So we start with that, and then we move on to further integration. I'll skip 2 and 3 for now. The main thing I want to then, I think after we do this, the main thing is like, if it works well, we can target, we can begin with the review process and do the Oracle thing that Joyce was talking about. So basically just ensure the accuracy of author data and claims and bring social awareness to the process. And maybe, I don't know because I'm not a blockchain guy, but maybe we should be putting these reviews on the blockchain. Maybe, I don't know. But let me pause here and get your thoughts. Does it, like step 1, does it make sense? Do you guys think it's a good starting point? And also, what do you guys think about this whole thing?
Yeah, I like with the button kind of stuff. But the only remark I have is that like I see the little question mark you have there. Does it somehow explain what RSC is? Because we all know about it as we are involved in ResearchHub, but as just a novel user, you don't know what RSC is. And like, for instance, lab roots, you can claim points and then you can win some t-shirts or some mugs, but I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
to me, that would be really important to know.
Yeah, I think I'm not a good designer, but I totally agree that when we actually have a designer do this, it will explain in much detail exactly what RSC is and what the process. My personal goal is to bring awareness to RSC, because I think that once people become aware of it, they will engage, they'll want to make RSC and they'll engage more with ResearchHub. So I totally agree, Philip, that it's a very important point.
Yeah, I think hopefully OSF will have some expertise to be able to know like exactly what their users would need to see, like how cryptocurrency friendly they are, like kind of what they want in order to make it attractive to them.
But I really like the idea of like having preprint servers with these functionalities that will, yeah, I guess that's the way forward to get some traction on the site, have more active users.
Do you guys think it makes sense to, and I know, Joyce, we haven't gotten a chance to touch base, but to start with something other than reviews before we delve into the review process? What do you guys think?
Kobe, when you say other than reviews, do you have an example of what that
Oh
could be?
yeah, I meant the that button that I was showing with the click here to discuss this paper on ResearchHub, also showing how much RSC the paper has earned. So like that type of MVP as opposed to an MVP that incorporates like the Oracle like review aspect.
I mean, that depends, right? So the functionality that Brian Nosek proposed, right? So the verification process, it doesn't require a lot of people to be valuable. What you're proposing requires a fully functional, populated, popular research hub. If you are certain that this moment is coming soon, then you can start implementing, I think, the discussion functionality, right? But if not, if you think it's going to be humble for a while, maybe focus on the verification instead, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all, because I do think there is some technical challenges too. Like if we're going to put this button on papers at OSF, then the implication is that in order to discuss the paper, we need to have the paper in ResearchHub, and then there is a challenge to it as well. Whereas the review process may be starting with a subset of papers, and then as opposed to everything. So yeah, I think it's definitely something to be considered. Yeah.
So we're at 4:30 my time right now. So does anybody else have any thoughts here? We'll get back in contact with OSF and hopefully be able to report back on next steps by the next community call or so. Doing good? Cool. Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about is we've had a little bit of success posting papers from ResearchHub to our science in order to like help drive traffic to ResearchHub. We've done this like maybe 3 or 4 times over the last year, where like in a weekend we can get 50,000 clicks. There was a podcast we did, Anton, Nami, and I, a couple weeks ago about the like mental health effects of long COVID, and I shared that paper over the weekend on our science. We got to the top of our science, got 50,000 new users, and we only had like 200 of them sign up. And of those 50,000, I think there was like 10 or 11 that ended up becoming weekly active contributors. And so we feel like that's a pretty low conversion rate of like eyeballs to the site actually turning into people who upvote or comment or share a paper. So I guess the first question is like, do you all have any thoughts on why that may be? And then the second question is just of the nature of Reddit. These are mostly mobile users. It was like 85 to 90% mobile. And so curious if you all have like used our mobile site, and if so, like if you have any feedback on ways to improve the design in order to try and like make it a little bit more user friendly, in case, you know, that could be the reason why the conversion rate is lower.
I have never used the mobile version, so I don't know. But about the conversion rate, I don't know. I still think that it's really hard to figure out what are you supposed to do on ResearchHub. What are you allowed to do? What is the intellectual property aspect? Are you allowed to share other people's papers? Because it kind of seems and feels like it's almost becomes your paper when you share it, instead of the authors themselves. So I don't know if there is there should be an onboarding, more extensive onboarding, or like a massive overlay showing you specific goals that you need to do next to be an active member. But I don't know.
Do you have the length of time that they were spending on the site before dropping off?
Yeah, I can pull it up. It'll take me 1 second. The grand majority were like 30 seconds. And then there would be like tiers, like standard deviations. Like some people would stay for like 20 plus minutes and click a lot. But the grand majority would be like 30 seconds or under. Like they would look at the paper, click the DOI, maybe download the PDF. And we actually had a pretty good discussion going under it. Like there were maybe like 10 or 15 comments that we all talked about during the podcast. So people would also browse those. But that's a great point, Nick. I'll try and pull up the actual data there.
Yeah, they're spending more than 30 seconds, and that would you could deduce that they're like trying to figure out how to use the site. But 30 seconds seems a little bit too short of a time to even think about like how to sign up or how does it work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at metrics is important, and also, and on the other side of the spectrum, maybe having more qualitative information about users' experience also important. I feel like. So, what are they doing like in the kind of interview format? So, there's a metric, but
Yes.
I just want to say,
It looks like almost 2 minutes. Bounce rate is, did they click another page or did they just leave immediately from the page that they got to? So 85% of people just went to the paper page and then left, which I don't even, that seems okay to me. And 2 minutes is, it's decently significant. And there was a lot of conversation under it. So I could see like at least a minute reading the discussions.
It's 2 minutes on the page, so that's enough for people to be like checking stuff out.
Totally.
So,
but on the page itself, without going anywhere else, right?
We're not going anywhere else. Only so this is total page views of the page I posted to Reddit, and then going to the homepage, only 336.
So we have touched on that topic in the past, but do you have any plans for like suggested content? After you scroll to the very bottom of the comments, nothing else left. You want to read something else, but you're not quite sure how the website works yet. But ResearchHub can offer you similar comments or similar papers, something like that, without going to the main page and going to the hubs. I don't know. Did you think that would work?
It's a great point. I was going to share this with the team internally, but I'll just post it here and then post it in our group too. But Research Square, have you guys heard of this? This is a preprint server. I think it's funded by like the Elsevier types. And so their paper page is kind of similar to ours. I think there's a lot we can take away from it, but they do have suggested like more from the nature portfolio on the right side. So they kind of have like suggested papers. I'm not sure if people actually click it or not, but it's definitely something we should add eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a great point as well. Like for me as a user, I do kind of click to other pages, or when scrolling, even for instance on Amazon and looking for some products, and like, okay, maybe if I want to buy a PC and it says this computer mouse is great with it, okay, maybe that's a stupid example, but still I guess it works, especially for people my age, maybe, as I'm the youngest, maybe with Thomas. I think that works.
It makes it
It does,
have
yeah.
hubs, and the hubs are like, you know, kind of the same thing. Like, hey, if you're interested in this, here's my hubs. Here's what else you'd be interested in. I wonder if we could feed individual recommendations to paper pages based on people's like history of clicking through things or what hubs they follow.
Do you use hubs? Like, do you ever use the hub section instead, except for the very first time where you kind of like select them? I
No.
personally have never been there, so I don't know if this is a good place to send people, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
When I click, when I like sporadically browse for comments, I rarely do it through like articles like that, because they are like one among the thousand, right? They are like just pieces of information for me thrown at me. They are not individualized in any way or shape or form. So I rarely click on the articles themselves. However, I do click if I see comments. Like if on the right you could have like select comments, the most upvoted comments, I think that would be more appealing than the names of the papers themselves.
So Anton, you're thinking kind of like on the homepage, how we have like a list of like activity on the right side, bringing that to the page.
Yeah. Either replace the latest activity altogether with select trending comments, or at least add another one or something like that.
It'd be interesting to experiment with that, just to see if we could get people to click around more when we bring them in from Reddit. Cool. Does anybody else have any thoughts here? So the last thing that we can do, and I'll turn off the recording for this, but Nick has an idea for a crypto